appointment, and thank everyone for coming. And we have refreshments down the hall. I think beverages of champagne and scallops wrapped in bacon, etc. So don't hurry down there. Tips for the collector. The dealer playing is easy to spot on the contract. He seeks to establish confidence in him, eagerly pointing out major flaws and minor flaws, but failing to mention the major ones. The brasses, he said, are replaced. So are all 4 feet, you notice, not distracted from his red herring. Another clearly recognizable character is the pusher. His hard sell sounds like banter. It has been in the same family for generations. I've tried for years to get this piece, and I've had to pay particularly well for what I'm asking for. A prominent collector has his eye on it and is going to be so upset to learn it's been sold. And I hate to sell it. You can't find any of these types anymore. Amid such talk, savvy collectors should slam shut their ears and open their eyes wide when dealing with these unscrupulous dealers, which many of them are today. One way to squelch pedigrees and cut down on the banter is to tell the dealer, I keep a file on everything I buy. When and if I buy this, I want all that info on the bill of sale. Will you write down all the history you just told me, every word, including your estimate of what the piece was made, when the piece was made, while I continue looking it over? Always have the dealer write on the receipt all the information he has about that antique. If all the information is not on the receipt, you will never consider getting it. Keep a file on your collection. The receipt now becomes part of the object's history, its provenance. Every object should have a separate folder. An antique always looks better when it's home. Always get return privileges in writing from the dealer. Many reliable dealers will take back a purchase item at the price of the original transaction. After a dealer gets to know you, he's likely to suggest that you take home the furniture right off the bat. Don't take it home, yet examine it in his shop. The auction. Until you know your stuff, the auction beat, though it appears attractive, can be treacherous territory to say the least. What seems most attractive are the prices. One can expect to pay less at the auction than at the shop, although that is not always the case. Many auction pitfalls are common knowledge. All sales are final. Handlers canily present the best aspects of an object while hiding its flaws. The lights, the lack of them, make even the dreadful objects look well. And not all bids at the auction come from people. An auctioneer claims to have no reserves, seems regularly to accept bids from the large clock in the back of the Elks Hall. In an entirely different sense, the clock is the greatest danger at auctions. Prospective bidders have little time when examining the items that appeal to them. Those in the know go to the auction previews early and stay late. Preview the lots as early as possible. At auction previews, take your time in order to be able to inspect each object thoroughly, inspect fewer of them, inspect only the lots that truly interest you, and whose estimated prices, which may be cited in the catalog or associated or ascertained from the auctioneer, are within your budget and within your own estimate of their value. The estimated prices, educated guesses that can vary often, do wander wide of the mark, are one of the things that catalog is good for. None of those catalog terms, antique, rare, fine, style of, attributed to, mean anything. Although one can probably believe reproduction, catalog descriptions don't enter into the savvy collector's consideration of any auction lot. Why not? Auction catalogs themselves, in at least pursuits section state that reason. The condition of sale printed to protect the house is not to protect you, the public. State, neither we nor the consignor make any representation or warranty, expressed or implied, as to the correctness of the description, genuineness, authenticity, or condition of the said property. No statement in the catalog or at the sale shall be deemed such a warranty or representation or an assumption of liability with respect thereof. In other words, take no stock in anything said in either the catalog or by the auctioneer or any of their cronies. Few auction houses have the same level of expertise and in-house experience as shops that handle antiques of similar quality, nor need they. They do not have the same investment in what they are selling. Yet auction catalogs usually suggest some level of knowledge, claiming that reasonable care was taken in the cataloging. The phrase reasonable care means nothing and doesn't even ensure the auction house is telling all that it knows about the lots or the object at hand. Be especially suspicious of objects or collections that are sold shortly after being included in books or museums, exhibitions. The selection of an object for a book or exhibit may not have been based on an unbiased assessment of that object, but may have been merely hype for the upcoming auction. Publication and exhibition are no guarantees for authenticity, and houses purposely make short periods between your receipt of an auction catalog and the sale that leaves you little time to adequately check cited publications. So this is a very short time in between. The exhibitions are normally very short-sighted between that and the actual sale. You can't always be in the know, but you can always be suspicious. But the savvy collector is aware that sometimes an antique merely visits a museum on loan because it's on its way to the auction block, even though most museum professionals successfully sidestep the hype a privately owned antique trap. You do not need to pay a premium for the imprint of an institution. You do not need to assure that the antique is both genuine and worthy. An antique on the market may have once belonged to a museum. Ex-museum objects, enthusiastically called deaccessions, are appearing ever more frequently on the auction block. And usually, but not always, the catalog proudly claims the museum collection. But these are stowaways. The museum doesn't want them anymore, but yet it proudly proclaims them as a previous collection piece. The savvy collector asks why the lot is no longer in the museum. The reasons for museums deaccessioning: example, the object is one of many of its type in the collection, or it does not fall into one of the areas of the museum interest or beginning manifestations, should not discourage interest on part of the buyer. If the table is not the best Chippendale II dining pedestal in the museum, it still may be the best one available to the collector. If the hometown museum is not interested in an out-of-state chair, the collector may well be, and it may be a great catch and great find. But museums also sell objects their own curators have discovered to be fakes, frauds, forgeries, or reproductions. And museums sell objects that have been overly restored and that they cannot really be considered antique anymore because more than 60–70% of the object is restored. While inspecting a museum's deaccessions, ask yourself, why is it being sold? Be prepared for an exhilarating discovery. You have become such a savvy detective that you can spot the fake, the fraud, the reproduction, or the reworked antique that once fooled a curator.